All right. Well, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning somewhere out there in the world. This is Real Talk with E.V.E. And this is a must watch, must listen show today because of the guest that I have on today will be powerful. It'll touch your heart and maybe your stomach after what you're going to hear. These individuals are important, key individuals that are going to bring truth to human trafficking, especially what's happening to the kids. They're crossing the border. And this is truth, people. This is Real Talk with EVE. So I'm going to bring them back up. I'm going to bring them back on the stage one by one, here to be in the studio. And I thank them for their time and for their boldness more than anything. Thank you, Ms. Tara Rodas. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Ms. Deborah White. Thank you, Aaron Stevenson and Len, that I hope to get back on the screen. But it's an important day today, folks, here on Real Talk with EVE. And that's exactly what you're all going to be hearing today is Real Talk. If we can go across, Ms. Tara Rhodes, tell us who you are a little bit and where you're from.
Sure. So my name is Tara Rodas, and I live in Virginia, the great state of Virginia. Just outside of Washington, D.C., and I'm so happy to be here with you. EVE, thank you so much for highlighting government-sponsored, taxpayer-funded child trafficking. But I've been a federal employee for over 20 years. I'm not speaking on behalf of the government right now, but I got to see firsthand how U.S. dollars are being put to traffic children. And so I'm very grateful that we have the opportunity to share our stories with you tonight. Thank you for highlighting this important story.
No, and thank you once again for making time to come on, because what you're doing is so, so important that I appreciate you. Thank you, Ms. Tara Rodas. And next is Carlos. Could you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
Like you said, my name's Carlos. Was born in Houston, but I'm from the Rio Grande Valley, so I'm about 10-15 minutes away from the border of Mexico and Texas. So
you see a lot
all my life. Oh yeah, I was about to say just that is growing up. Either your family or your family friends or your friends, either you work in immigration or you work as a contractor for one of the immigration sites, because there's nothing else to really do in the Rio Grande Valley except you either work that or you work a minimum wage job. So
wow.
I throughout the years, even when I wasn't working in this, I've gotten to see how the situation at the border has changed, with family members coming home and venting from their job from their day as working as a border patrol agent or as a local police officer at the border, because believe it or not, the border situation affects a lot of local law enforcement and a lot of local emergency services. For example, when there's a lot of people to be processed at the border, at the port of entries, it slows down the response time from the police because they have to go and be present when there's too many people. So you get to see a lot of that growing up in that area.
Wow. Well, thank you, Carlos, as well, for making time out of your busy schedule to come on and be that bold person that is telling the truth. Next, we have Ms. Deborah White. Can you introduce yourself and where you're from?
Hi, yes, I'm Deborah White. I'm a federal employee, have been for the past 10 years, but I've worked in the federal space in contracting, acquisition, and project management for probably the last 17 years or so. I am sisters in arms with Tara Rodas. We were in Pomona, California together working for HHS, helping to process undocumented minor children, and we witnessed some horrific things, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So thank you for having us on the show.
No, it is an honor actually to have all of you. And for those that are watching for the first time or for the umpteenth time, this is Real Talk with E.V.E. And yes, you see me in the vehicle, but I could not pass this opportunity that Len Reynolds was able to get you all together at one time here. And I just could not pass up the opportunity because we need to bring awareness to the table, to the community, to the region, to the nation, and internationally to other countries, because this has been highlighted from a movie that came up, but this has been going on for so long. And so up next is Aaron Stevenson. Can you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
Yeah. Well, first off, by the way, so although Deborah is a Fed, just to cover all the bases, she's not representing the government right now. Blah 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 blah. Get it the whole thing.
Right.
Thank you.
So I was fired by DHS.
Thank you.
Of course, no problem. They'll come after you. I was fired by DHS for a few things. The main thing was they stopped trusting me. I blew the whistle on a few different things. The first one, of course, was child sex trafficking. And I'm actually from, by the way, Illinois. I was born in Hazel Crest. I grew up in Crete and New Lenox. And then I joined the Marine Corps, been all over. I was an intel guy. And then I got fired back in February, and here I am.
Wow. Well, you were not far from me. So thank you, Aaron, for also stepping up to the plate. And we just lost Carlos. I don't know what happened, but hopefully he'll get to join us back. And Len, if he tries again, he was originally there already in the studio, and only God knows what's happening, but you're here and you have not a story but facts to share. Who would like to go first? And I really feel honored to have you all here on this stage, on this platform. And we got Carlos back and still can't get Len in. So I'm hoping that he still continues to try. Otherwise, I will have just a show with Len, because of Len is what made this all possible to bring you all here together. And I know that there's an event coming up on the 14th, a conference that Len and the Share Group is putting together and bringing you all personally into one place. And I think that it's never been done from what Lynn has shared with me. And so this is important information to those that are viewing. It may hurt you. It may turn your stomach. It may anger you, but it's important. It is a much needed to be told. Very much needed to be told. So yes, guys, I'm sitting in the car, but that's okay. We have Aaron. It's in the airport from what I'm hearing. And Carlos is in his own place. I mean, this is information that we couldn't pass up, people, that they really wanted to share here. And I thank them to bring what they have to tell us here. So who would like to go first?
Yeah, I can kick things off.
All right, go ahead, Ms. White.
Sure. So again, thank you. I would like to say that my views and opinions do not express that of the government, but they are my personal views, thoughts. Deborah White, on behalf of Deborah White. So in the spring of 2021, there was a humanitarian call that the Office of Personnel Management put out to all federal employees. Tara and I both answered that call and ended up at this site, emergency intake site in Pomona, California, where, we were really happy to work with children and help them get reunited with their families. Tara and I are both Spanish speakers, so that, was one of some of our skills that, they were requiring. And so anyways, we get to Pomona, California, and it's very chaotic. There wasn't the training that was promised to us. We worked with the children in the pods, taking care of them, hearing their stories, horrific stories about how they came across the border with coyotes, monies that were paid to the cartels to get them across the border. So we knew this was happening. I mean, this is just a regular occurrence when you're dealing with several undocumented children. But what really shocked us was when we got into the case management room. So Tara and I were working side by side in the case management room, processing these children, hearing their stories, interviewing them alongside with the case managers. So the case managers are the ones who are, technically processing these children. But we were there as a federal support team, and we got to find out through really digging deeper and asking more pointed questions, because the questions they were being asked really wasn't revealing much of anything. But as you further interviewed the child, you would come to find out that in many cases, they didn't know the sponsor that they were going to, or they had to provide a story that they knew this person, or it was their aunt, or uncle. Anyhow, so the bottom line is that we were able to uncover that the first case of trafficking, which happened in Bonita Springs, Florida, we figured out that these children were very nervous. One even ended up in the psychiatric ward because they were so nervous. They were stressed out, wondering, why they couldn't get to their sponsor faster. So anyhow, through some digging deeper, through some investigative questions, it was uncovered that the child had actually been recruited in Guatemala, transported to the United States for labor trafficking. So that was the first case that me and the team broke, and from there it was just really easy at that point to spot the red flags in the system, because this particular sponsor had sponsored over 16 children in the past, and it created a network. Once those children would age out, basically become 18 years old, they would then become sponsors and request children as well. So this was just one case in the Bonita Springs area, and then once that one was cracked open, we were just able to find, the floodgates were open at that point. We were just able to find multiple that had very similar stories. But the children continued to be sent. Tara and I raised the alarm in every which way that we could. We reported to the Office of Inspector General. We reported to DHS. We reported every which way that we possibly could, but it didn't stop anything. The children continued to be sent to these really dangerous sponsors in many cases. And so that's why we're here today telling the story. Hoping that we can get you to, write to your congressional representatives and take action. These children need to be found, or the call to action really is the children need to be found and accounted for. The program needs to be accountable. And we just ask that the American people, would be outraged about what's going on, and that they would contact their senators and congressmen and get something done.
Most definitely. Wow. And the personal question that will go out to each and every one of you, if you can express, how did that make you feel? Besides you in that position, but as a human being, as a person, as a mom, or as a woman or man, how did that make you feel knowing that, Ms. White?
Yeah, I mean, helpless, hopeless at times, desperate. We did everything we possibly could. There was just, we believe we did everything we possibly could, and we still weren't getting anywhere. So it was just a feeling of hopelessness.
Wow.
Yeah. Tara may have other thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that brings you up, Ms. Tara.
Yeah. Well, I would say I felt very close to the darkness. That's the only way I can describe it. And there were days, as a public servant, as somebody who wanted to help, as somebody who volunteered, to help with this mission, along with every other person on this call and many more throughout the country, I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. And that's not what happened. That's not what's happening in this program. So it was a terrible and horrific revelation. I don't think there's words to describe the level of despair and just horror that our federal government is knowingly giving children to criminals and traffickers. It was a horrible revelation, and I'm still not over it. And that's why we're all here. I mean, we've all been in this fight for a long time, and we're not going to give up. And that's probably a good place for Erin to pick up, because Deb said something very important. She said dangerous sponsors, and Erin gave us some great information while we were at Pomona. So I think it's Erin's turn.
Go ahead, Erin.
So, all right. So, I don't know. My take on it was a little bit different, I guess, because I was already very distrusting generally, but I was an intel analyst for the government for quite a long time, right? So I already know just how bad government can suck, just how inefficient they really are. But I just didn't know the level nor about this exactly. So in February 2021, I came across the first actual encounter message of what's called a transnational organized criminal for this whole thing. So the Transnational Organized Crime Watch List is a program that the government has, which is considered a whole of approach to identifying international gangsters, basically. So that means like cartels, just so everybody knows. And this program's been going on for quite a while, probably about 2016, give or take. And I've been on there as long as that thing started. And every day you get encounter messages about aliens on this talk watch list. So it could be anywhere from, a person being arrested, person being deported, someone was applying for an immigration benefit, whatever. And in February 2021, I see the first one that has this code in there, which says 6 USC 279 UAC sponsor. And I had no idea what that was. So I kind of like just brushed past it, like, oh, whatever. And then a month later, I see the same kind of code. And I was like, well, that looks familiar to me. And I would get about 20 or so of these encounters a day. So I copy and paste it into this like search thing that I have in my inbox where I have every single talk encounter that's ever been through. And I've only seen 2 now, one from that February and one from March of 2021. So I have no idea what this thing is. I look it up, I Google it, and it comes across this thing in this program called the HHS Unaccompanied Alien Child Program. And I have no idea what this thing is. So I started asking around at work where I used to work at in USCIS, just like, hey guys, what are these UACs? What is this whole thing? And they were like, I don't know. That's not our job. We don't deal with them. Like, okay, no. But I keep seeing these about once every 4 weeks. So in April, I saw another one come through. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, hold on. This is now like the third one in 3 months. And this is kind of odd now. So I started reaching out to the rest of the government, and especially those who were involved in this talk program. So I reached out to other parts of DHS, like CBP, ICE, the Intel folks at INA, and no one's got any eyes on or any clue. I reached out to DOJ and the Terrorist Screening Center, FBI, and I'm striking out everywhere I go to. And but at this point in time, I already sent everything off to Project Veritas, and they're starting an investigation on it. But I start realizing, though, that the actual insidious part of this thing is this is not just happening from like really one element or one cartel. The aliens that are trying to get these kids are coming from like many different gangs. So of note, they were MS-13, 18th Street Gang, as well as a Romanian, an actual Balkan organized crime group. So these aliens weren't even coming from one country. These were like Guatemalans, Hondurans, El Salvadorans, Romanians. And it all started in February 2021, which that kind of sets off your buzzer because it's like, okay, well, this is a whole new pattern of activity, but everybody's doing it. It's like, this makes no sense at all.
Right.
So, right before I went public, or right before my disclosure to Veritas in this thing, the interview, I come across one more document that DHS INA produced. Now, INA stands for Intel and Analysis. These are the actual Intel folks that are part of the intelligence community for DHS. And these people wrote up this thing called a collection primer. And just this is basically very, very nerd speak for this is how we are going to look up information about international gangs. And the only thing they cared about in this thing, this document, was about drug trafficking and guns trafficking. That was it. Nothing about children, nothing about sex trafficking or anything at all like that. So that to me was like, okay, that's good eyes on then that the reason why no one is looking at this is because it's not been directed to by the executive branch. So that was it for me for that part.
Wow.
By the way, the key part of this thing too is this talk watch list that I'm like looking at every day. It's capped at 40,000, and it doesn't even hit that full cap, the full ceiling. So the terror screening watch list, that's got like 1 million people on it. Well, this talk watch list about the cartels, at this point in time, we're having like almost 250,000 crossings per month at the border.
Wow.
This is limited at 40,000. And the way it works, as far as people being on the watch list, you drop off all the time if you make an asylum claim. Well, all these people that are making fake asylum claims and using the defensive asylum process, they're dropping off the watch list like crazy. So the fact that I'm seeing one every like 3 to 4 weeks, and it's that small, and there's that many people falling off, it's just the whole thing was like, yep, this is pretty major, guys. So that's that.
Wow. And knowing that, Aaron, how does that make you feel?
So at the time, kind of complex because this is, February and the early part of 2021. I just lived through 2020 and I was an atheist for like 10 straight years up until 2020. And then seeing that all happen, all the lies that we were kind of currently living, that made me just realize I really think I'm wrong about this. So at this point in time, I'm already kind of reading about religion and kind of getting back into Christianity, learning it more. I'm full on Eastern Orthodox. I'm baptized, chrismation, the whole thing. My kids are as well. So now where I'm at is, I guess, a different place. Then I was more of just like dumbfounded at how we could be doing this and why no one cares. And now I'm at the point where it's like, well, of course no one cares. We're look at who our government really is. So to me, it makes a lot more sense now.
Wow. Well, thank you. I don't know those that are watching Real Talk. This is real talk, people. And again, if you're just joining on a beautiful day and don't want to make it a bad day for you, but this is much needed information that you need to hear. As Ms. White said, you need to contact your local legislators, your local congressmen, people that are there at the table making decisions. We got to scream, we got to go, we got to show up and be present. Kids can't do what they want to do, they're told what to do. These children are innocent, and you're hearing next Carlos what he's experienced, what he has seen, what he has heard. Go ahead, Carlos.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. I had to move around because I'm
No
at the
problem.
airport and there's tons of noise, and then there was kids near me, so I was trying to find a quieter part in the airport.
We can hear you. Thank you, Carlos, for making time. And I know you're ready to fly out, but this is crucial. And you're showing me how crucial it is by making the time while you're in the airport to share this information to the world.
But basically, with me, I handle the transportation. So after the kids would leave the camps, the shelters, they have to get on airplanes most of the time to travel across the country wherever it is that they're going to be dropped off with a sponsor. And with a job like that, it attracts a lot of young people. And a lot of these young people only care about the perks of the job. So with a job like this, and you hire not having any hiring standards, you're gonna get people who don't care. So, well, while I was doing my job, I would run into a lot of coworkers who would tell me stories like, my kid was saying that he didn't know or she didn't know the sponsor, but I still dropped the kid off even though they told me they didn't know them. I still dropped the kid off because I wanted to go out. So the rule is that once you finish dropping the kid off with the sponsor, you're allowed to go out into the city. So say I have to drop off the kid in Los Angeles or in New York City. Once the kid is handed off to the sponsor, you don't fly back to Texas until the following day. So you have all night to go out into the city, to go out into the clubs, to go out to do the tourist type of things. And you hire young people, that's what they're gonna want. I was living a life that it's sort of a life that one at a young age you dream about, because I would be in Los Angeles one night, and 2 days later, I'm at the Space Needle in Seattle, and then 2 days after Seattle, I'm in Times Square in New York City, and it's a luxury job for young people. So
Wow.
they're not gonna care. They're not gonna care about the kids that they have to transport. They're gonna care about going out, getting drunk in the city, and going out and doing the tourist type of things. So I used to hear a lot of stories where my coworkers would tell me just horror stories where they would say that the child was crying because they didn't want to go to where they were going to be dropped off with a sponsor. And my coworkers would say, I still dropped the kid off even though the kid was crying. And I
Wow.
wouldn't believe it because, you hear something like that and you say, there's no way that's true. There's no way that's true. My coworker just wants attention. And it's bad as it sounds, like, who wants attention off of that, but there's people who do that type of stuff. So I would just say, no, there's no way my coworker's being honest. But then one day I got an email from my bosses admitting to my coworkers dropping off kids to the wrong people. And in this email, they just basically admit, hey, we messed up with kids. And it was sort of like a throwaway comment to, hey, you guys gave kids to the wrong people, whatever, don't do it again. And that's the end of it.
That's it? Just,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and the whole process, it's a little length. It's a little, for example, I could go elaborate, but I don't want to confuse anyone watching right now. It's something I can elaborate more in person. But basically, my supervisors would not find out if the kid was dropped off to the wrong person until 24 hours after it happened.
Wow. A lot can
And
happen in 24 hours.
a lot can happen in 24 hours, and that's another horrible thing about the process was that it wasn't built the right way, and a lot these companies just grab all the money, all the government money, but they don't do the job the right way. So when I received that email, that was my breaking point. I said I can't do this anymore. I have to speak up. I have to tell whoever would listen to me about all this, because it's children, you know? Children are innocent. You shouldn't involve them in anything like
Yep.
politics or anything like that. And at the end of the day, we have to defend them because they can't defend themselves. So when I
That,
saw the email,
oh,
I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't be part of it. So I quit that job after that.
I don't blame you. I don't know how I would be able to work knowing that a child that doesn't know who they're going with, total stranger, and then if they didn't speak the language, even worse. And Tara and Deborah, thank you por hablar en español con mis niños. Muchas gracias. Thank you, because that, I'm sure, gave them a little peace of mind that they're understanding what you're saying and vice versa. I don't know about you guys. Is your stomach turning? Are you getting those phone numbers to contact your congressmen, your legislators, that election time is coming? Before you know it, they want you to vote for them. Ask yourself, what have you done? This is what I tell everybody. Before you vote for someone, look at their track record for the last at least 10 years to see what they've done to make a change. Have they made a change, and who they're impacting? And for the decisions that they've made along the way, how has it affected you locally, nationally, and internationally? And in this case, it's happening worldwide. And right now, what's happening in the borders is just chaos, which makes me think what I just heard you say, Carlos. How many of these children are continuously sent somewhere and no one's reporting that? How many of those children? Now, from what I've got, Len can't join us for some reason. I'm not able to have him add him to the studio. But Carlos, you said something so key that they didn't report it. They just dropped them off.
It's impossible to know because the government has admitted to 85,000 children are missing, but I believe all of us on this call think that number is way higher.
Yes.
I think everyone can agree on that.
Can I slide in there really quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
All right. So,
wow.
And Tara can really shot with me here too. All right. So when they say the 85,000 missing kids, first off, that's just the past 2 fiscal years. That does not include this
That's it. Yeah, that's not counting.
But on top of that, the main thing about this whole thing about these kids being missing, that's if no one answers the phone. Okay. So that means if you answer the phone, well, the kid must be good. It doesn't mean so. The number is substantially higher. And so when people say it's 85,000 missing kids, you can probably double that and be much closer to the ballpark number.
Wow. That's sickening.
Yeah. And, to piggyback on what Aaron said, we know that there have been hundreds of calls every single month, sometimes more than 250 calls a month to a HHS helpline. These are children who are reporting that they are abused, they are neglected, or trafficked. This is HHS's data. This is not something anybody here on this call made up. This is a known fact, even reported by the New York Times. These children are reaching out for help. These are ones that actually still have their paperwork, that are not chained somewhere, that are still alive. There are children today calling a hotline, and we need to be their voice. And so I thank you so much for, giving us the opportunity to explain the story, because it doesn't seem believable that the United States government is the middleman in the largest child trafficking operation on the planet. But that is what we're talking about. It's not an exaggeration. It is a fact. We're spending billions and billions of dollars to lure the children here and transport them all around to people who we know are known criminals. And that's where I really have to, again, give the shout out to Aaron, because Aaron identified an MS-13 actor and an 18th Street gang actor, and he went public, right? He just went public. And
Wow.
we were able to see that and find the same thing happening. And so if it weren't for people like Carlos and Deb and Aaron, your listeners wouldn't be able to hear the full story. There's so
Wow.
many people who want to come forward, but they're scared because everybody gets retaliated against. People
Right.
get fired. I was walked off the site by security and the federal field specialist for telling the truth.
How dare you, Tara? That's what they're saying. How dare you, right? Well, I'm glad that you stepped up and were given that boldness to do that. That if it were not for all of you four here today, I wouldn't know half the stuff you're telling me. I was just guessing, not knowing the numbers, but I knew that some of this was not right. Some of this was not accounted for. Children that we don't know where they're at, crying for their parent, a child at night that needed their mom. What are their age variants? What's the age groups of these children we're talking about? Just so people can really get it here and here to do something.
Historically, two populations, you have boys and girls. So typically for boys, you're going to see more labor trafficking. This will be your upper end in the teenage years because they have more muscle mass. They're better like slave laborers because they have more muscle, right? So you'll see those average ages around, I think, 14 to 17, give or take. Girls that were going to be younger because those are more of your sex trafficking victims. And though I think the average age starts around 12 to 13 possibly, but to my understanding, it's not over 14. So obviously much younger girls. As far as the ratio, I think we've seen historically the number is like 4 to 1 as far as for like labor slaves versus sex slaves. I'm not sure if that's still accurate right now, but give or take, those are your ages for those. But I've been out of the government now for about 9 months, so I'm not too sure.
Right.
Wow.
But Carlos, it would be great. Carlos, what is the age of the youngest child that you transported?
Yes, great question. Thank you, Tara.
The youngest I transported was a 3-month-old baby. And what's even crazier is that I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but I, like my education background, I didn't graduate high school. I have a GED. And aside from my GED, I went to a technical school, which was just a 2-year thing for medical coding and billing. So this is who you have transporting a 3-month-old baby. This is the best the U.S. government can do, is someone, and who I don't, how can I say it? Normal. I don't know how to say this, but you would think they would be better.
You would think,
Carlos,
because they are our leaders.
Carlos, did you even know how to feed that baby? Did you ever change the diaper? I mean, were you trained how to change the diaper before you took the baby?
So I only knew because of my nieces and nephews. And by nieces and nephews, I mean my cousin's babies.
Right, but there was no checklist. I mean, like your government contractor, they didn't have you do a checklist and say, "Hey, here's how you take care of an infant."
No.
Yeah. Wow. So pretty much they're showing that they don't care.
Yeah, and if you see the expose that Muckracker did that he released on Twitter, you'll see if you watch closely. He filmed a lot of the escorts at the airport earlier this year. It was it was in September, and in one of the escort groups, the two escorts, one of the gentlemen looks to be in his 50s or 60s, and the other gentleman looks to be in his 20s, 30s. And in the group they're moving, you can see the group of kids following them. You see 2 teenage boys. And you see 3 teenage female girls. And it blows my mind because they're still having teenage girls being moved by male escorts. You would think that they would add a female escort to keep an eye on the girls, but they don't do it.
Wow.
So there's
Wow.
there's it's crazy. The way it is, it's crazy. You would think they would watch out for the girls more or the babies more, or at least say, let's put someone who has a kid of her own to escort a baby. No, they would put me to do that.
Right.
So as Deborah said, that there is no checklist. They didn't care if you knew how to care for a baby or not. Is your job just to transport, pretty much?
Yeah, there was no checklist. Carlos, do you know how to do CPR? Carlos, do you know how to make
Right.
a bottle? No, none of that.
Wow.
None of that.
Wow.
It was just a you figure it out.
That
You're
was
on your
pretty much
own.
the system by design. Tara and I experienced the same thing. System by design. Kind of figure it out. Talk to somebody who knows. No checklist, no SOPs, standard operating procedures, nothing. We had to come up with that ourselves.
So, Carlos, what if you were eating like a, I don't know, peanut butter M&M, and the
¿Cómo está?
kid has allergies? Do you feel like
Exactly.
then?
And they have an allergy. Wow. Okay, Carlos,
Mande.
someone's just talking to him. Someone's talking to him. I hear him
Ahí
talking
está
in Spanish.
tratando de llegar a
That's
la
a great
puerta.
question, Aaron. They don't even know if these children have any ailments, any allergies, and they're left to Carlos to figure it out on his own, or anyone else that is in charge of transporting them.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've read this stuff too, and I saw it in Iraq. Obviously, kids that have PTSD aren't exactly forthcoming.
Hey guys.
Right.
What's up?
You have to go?
Yeah, because look, nomás le puedes saludar a mis amigos. They're asking me for help to find an airport gate.
Oh my. Okay. Buenas tardes.
Buenas.
They only speak Spanish, so
Gracias, Carlos. Thank you, Carlos, for helping them. Go and do your job. You're doing great, and may God bless you. And we'll see you on the 14th.
yeah. Look, see, I'm at the airport.
Sí, sí. Gracias, Carlos. Ve y ayúdalos. Wow. And that goes to servant. That's a servant. And I think I know each and every one of you has a purpose which God has allowed you to hear, to see, to experience firsthand, for you to be here and tell us firsthand from you, that is not reading from a newspaper, not reading from someone else's mouth, but hearing it from all of you. And this will take us into the 14th. And Len, I know that you'll be watching this, but we'll be in touch shortly. We're going to bring you, Len. Len Renners is the reason why you're all coming to Northwest Indiana on the 14th. You've touched on just a slight bit of what you know, just to get people to call their congressmen, their legislators, and help stop this. And thank you for all of you for coming on and being the boldness, the brave, to tell it like it is, not sugarcoating it, not shooting from the hip, telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And I'm sorry, not sorry, people, that this is what's really happening with our government. Remember, when election time comes, you have a lot of questions to ask before that day, so you know who to vote for. But you also have to have that voice for the voiceless. There's a lot of children out there that parents have no idea where they're at. Now, here's the $1 million question people have asked me, and I've questioned myself. And some may not understand the need. How can a parent let go of a baby or a toddler, go across the country, the world, not knowing who they're with?
Oh, actually, I'm going to nominate Tara to please explain the real true definition of trafficking and a literal story that she can convey very, very heartfelt.
Okay.
Thank you, Aaron. So trafficking involves force, fraud, or coercion. That is the definition of trafficking. So you have to meet that criteria. So if anybody saw The Sound of Freedom, which I highly recommend,
Yes.
you can see
Yeah.
exactly how this happens, is that parents are defrauded. Parents believe like they're taking their child for a photo shoot, and they come back and the child is gone. Children are stolen off the streets. Children are told stories, and I'll talk about our Austin case that Deb and I worked on. There is actually a Guatemalan citizen who's living in Austin, Texas, and he owns a coffee farm in Guatemala. And he had boys working on his coffee farm in Guatemala for $2.50 a day.
Wow.
And then he said, you know what? You guys are so special. I'm going to bring you to the United States.
Oh, what a great thing.
Yeah, and you're going to make $6 an hour. These children believe that going from $2.50 a day to $6 an hour, that they're going to be Elon Musk rich. They come here believing, right? They've been defrauded. They are believing that they are going to be able to take care of themselves and send all this money back home to their families. And so sometimes their families let them go under this illusion because they see the trafficker who's living here in Texas. He's sending money back to his family. He owns a coffee farm. He owns all kinds of things. And we found in that area, there were over 109 children released on a 1 square block into only 4 apartment buildings. That is absolutely unacceptable. And so, God, in God's providence, though, right, he brought Aaron back to the faith. He put me and Deb. We didn't know each other before this mission, even though we're both in Virginia. He sent us both to Texas for training. And then Spanish speakers, we got chosen as, imagine this, there were only 10 of us on the team that were chosen to go to Pomona.
Wow.
And so absolutely amazing. And then out of the hundreds of people who were there, they only chose 10 people for case management. And so God never leaves you alone. And that,
amen to that.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Yeah. Wow. And I know Aaron said he had to get off, so he's there. I don't know if you want to say one last thing, Aaron, before you go. I appreciate all of you and your time and your due diligence to do that.
Yeah, so I'll be there those 2 days, 13th, 14th. And I'll see a lot then. So thank you all. God bless.
Thank you, Aaron. Be safe. And on that note, the information is the 14th. Do you have the time? I know it's in Cherville. I don't have the information right in front of me, but those of you that follow me will have that information because I'm sharing it daily. You got to wake up, people. As some of you say, be woke. You have to.
Well, it's from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the 14th of October.
Yeah, so it's an all day full of information that you need to know. I've invited the press and I've invited legislators to come to it. The Lake County prosecutor, Bernard Carter, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he said he'll be there. I'm going to hold him accountable to that. I'm going to hold him to that. And he knows that I will do that. And so I am spreading the word because they probably don't even know this far as what's really happening nationwide. And they need to know. Thank you, Tara Rodas. Thank you, Deborah White. Thank you to Aaron, to Carlos, to Len. Len, we missed you, but everything happens for a reason because he's got his own show because we want to talk about Rahab's daughter partnering with the Shared Group, and the Shared Group is doing great things to support what we're doing here in Northwest Indiana and with Rahab's daughters. And some of you know that I am all adamant about this, and Rahab's daughters goes and rescues down at the Super Bowl every single year. And next year we'll add the Olympics down in Paris. So keep everyone in prayer, donate, be part of the solution, people. This is a call to action, as Ms. White said. Can you repeat that again? What are you asking everyone that's watching this to do?
Well, I'm asking for your prayers. I am asking for you to be outraged. If you are, you should be very outraged and just disgusted with what's going on. And so if you would just help us be part of the solution, if you would please write your legislators, write your congressmen, write your senators, please let them know that we need to know where these children are. We need accountability for all of these children. We need to know where they are, and we need laws changed to protect children. We cannot continue to be the delivery service for traffickers. We demand accountability.
That's it. Any word from you, Ms. Rhodes? Ms. Rodas?
I agree 100%. Deb said it. The United States of America cannot be the middleman in a large-scale child trafficking operation. It's unacceptable. And we need your prayers, and we need you to take action. So
Amen to that. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. May God continue to bless you and just continue to be bold. And let me tell you that the windows of heaven will be opening up to you if they haven't already. Thank you so much for your time. Your time is precious. I value it. And thank you, Len Reynolds. He is local in Northwest Indiana. You will be meeting him soon, guys. So stay tuned for that information. For the 14th, be present. Be awake, be woke, as people say. Ladies, thank you once again for coming on Real Talk with EVE. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Whew, that was something else, guys. And as Ms. White will be coming off the screen as well. And Ms. Tara, thank you once again. We appreciate you, ladies. Thank you. Wow, I don't know what else to say, folks. I mean, I'm sitting here in my car making sure that we had to do this. Now is the time. If not now, then when? If not who? If not me, then who? And this is Real Talk with EVE. Wow. I don't know what else to say, guys. And on that note, I'm just gonna say, join me, join the movement, get involved, write your legislators, your congressmen, tell them what you know, what you heard. Be present. Be in the present, people. And that's all I can say. I have nothing else to say. You heard it from them, or some would say from the horse's mouth, but it was very touching. It was very, very touching. And on that note, guys, I got to sign off. Peace to you. God bless you. Continue to watch, continue to listen, continue to learn, and continue to grow. This is EVE signing off from Real Talk with EVE. Peace to you.